Soninoy, critical mistakes delayed the solution of this mystery for over a decade, leaving questions unanswered and a family without peace. But is there still time to correct Madeleine McCann's fate? Today you will discover the decisive moments that were lost and how they could have changed everything. There are secrets so deep that they cannot be revealed here on YouTube. If you want to go beyond the official narratives and uncover the darkest secrets of the century's greatest mystery, I've prepared something exclusive for you: the final dossier, the forbidden report on the McCann case. This material connects every detail the media ignored and reveals the dark truths that have remained buried for years. You can access it now in the first pinned comment, but pay attention. This content is unique and could disappear at any moment. Don't let the truth slip away again. Click the pinned comment and be among the few to discover what really happened. Mistakes, forgotten words, neglected clues, and decisions that echo to this day. The case of Madeleine McCann is a story marked not only by the tragedy of her disappearance, but also by the missed opportunities that could have written a different ending. And, guardians of the mystery, the question that haunts us to this day is, what if everything had been resolved in 2007? That night of May 3rd, everything started routinely. The McCanns, accompanied by their friends, were enjoying dinner at the Tapas Bar, while their 3 children slept in apartment 5A. They had arranged a rotation system to check on the children, a decision that seemed sensible at the time. But what no one knew was that this system would fail at a crucial moment, opening a window of opportunity that would never be closed. Between 9:05 p.m., when Jerry McCann last checked on the children, and 10 p.m., when Kate found the room empty, something devastating happened. Madeleine, only 3 years old, disappeared without a trace. A sense of panic took over the village. People began searching for the girl in the surrounding areas, combing through corridors, gardens, and even water tanks. But as time passed, the chances of finding her diminished, and the mistakes began to accumulate. When the police were called, the disappearance site should have been immediately isolated, treated as a crime scene. But that didn't happen. Apartment 5A was invaded by friends, resort staff, and even guests, all trying to help in the search. Unfortunately, this disorderly movement destroyed potential evidence: fingerprints, shoe prints, or any trace that could have pointed to what really happened to Madeleine. Now imagine, what if the investigators had acted quickly, isolated the site, and meticulously recorded every detail? Would any crucial clues have emerged? At 9:15 p.m., Jane Tanner, one of the friends in the group, saw something strange. A man carrying a child in his arms, walking in the opposite direction of the McCann's apartment. She mentioned what she saw, but her account was not treated with the seriousness it deserved. Only days later, when the police were already facing media and public pressure, her description was revisited. And here is the second mistake: the delay in acting on this testimony. If Jane's information had been used immediately, there might have been time to track the man's steps, identify where he was going. But instead, the case plunged into uncertainties while crucial clues disappeared in the confusion. Another point that cannot be ignored is the speed, or lack thereof, with which the authorities reacted. International alerts, vehicle monitoring, tracking of possible suspects. But the Portuguese police hesitated. The absence of a coordinated response allowed time to become the case's greatest enemy. Now, imagine how different it would have been if, that same night, the whole world was on alert. If Madeleine had been recognized at an airport, in a car on the road, or anywhere else, would that have changed the outcome? And if the apartment had been isolated? If Jane Tanner's account had led to an immediate search? If Portugal's borders had been closed that very night? These are the what-ifs that make the case so distressing, because they remind us that every missed decision represented an opportunity to bring Madeleine back. What torments me the most is the impact these mistakes had, not only on the investigations, but also on the very perception of the case. The lack of decisive action at the beginning not only hindered the search for the girl, but also opened the door to conflicting theories, accusations, and suspicions that diverted focus from what truly mattered: finding Madeleine. But guardians of the mystery, is there still time to correct the course? Can revisiting these decisions, understanding where the mistakes were made and how they could have been avoided, bring new clues to the case? As we look back at the events of 2007, we cannot change the past, but perhaps we can learn from it. And that is exactly what we are going to do next. Analyze how these mistakes shaped Madeleine McCann's story and what can still be done to correct this legacy of uncertainties. That night of May 3rd, 2007, as the clock ticked and the McCanns' desperation took over the Ocean Club Resort, each lost minute turned into a piece that could never be recovered. Madeleine's disappearance was as abrupt as it was incomprehensible, but as details began to emerge, the first contradictions arose, and with them, the feeling that something crucial was slipping through the cracks. One of the first points of contention was the chronology of events. The rotation system to check the children, strictly followed by the tapas group until that night, suddenly seemed inconsistent. Jerry stated he went to the apartment around 9:05 p.m. He remembers checking the children and finding everything in order. But minutes later, Jane Tanner saw a man carrying a child just meters from apartment 5A. And here is the contradiction. Jerry and Jane were in the same place at the same time, but he did not see the man she described. How is that possible? Did the man manage to go unnoticed even while carrying a child? Or was some detail forgotten, leaving the timeline full of gaps that were never filled? Jane Tanner's testimony should have been treated as a key piece, but was relegated to the background in the first days of the investigation. She described a thin man wearing light pants and a dark jacket, carrying a blonde girl in his arms, barefoot, walking in the opposite direction of the resort. The description was specific, but the response to her report was slow. The police argued that it was unlikely someone would carry a child so visibly if they were involved in something criminal. The result? Crucial days were lost while attention was directed to other possibilities. And here lies the second major contradiction. How could such a relevant testimony be treated as something dismissible? If the information had been used immediately, there might have been time to track the man, identify his identity, or at least verify if he was connected to the disappearance. Another point that caused confusion was the state of the apartment on the night of the disappearance. Kate McCann stated she found the bedroom window open and the curtain fluttering in the wind. This would suggest someone had entered or exited through there. However, the investigators questioned this possibility. The Ocean Club's windows were heavy and difficult to open without making noise. Moreover, there were no clear signs of forced entry. This contradiction led to an uncomfortable question. Did the kidnapper really enter through the window, or was it opened afterward? Meanwhile, there's the detail of the main door. Initially, it was believed to be locked, but according to Jerry, upon returning to the apartment after the disappearance, he found the door unlocked. This raises another troubling question. Did the kidnapper enter through the door, taking advantage of a moment of carelessness? At this point, chaos had consumed the scene. Instead of isolating the apartment, dozens of people entered and exited the site, contaminating potential evidence. Footprints, fingerprints, and even traces that could have been crucial to identifying the suspect were lost forever. Now imagine for a moment, what if the crime scene had been preserved? How many clues could have been found in the room or its surroundings? And more importantly, could these clues have led to a quick identification of the kidnapper? Lies in the time window between 9:05 p.m. and 10 p.m. This 55-minute interval is a void filled only with fragments of testimonies that never perfectly align. Was the man seen by Jane Tanner with Madeleine? Was he a resort employee, a guest, or someone who was just passing by? The most disconcerting thing is to think about what happened during those minutes. Was it a premeditated crime with a kidnapper waiting for the perfect moment? Or was it an opportunistic act, an impulsive decision that forever changed Madeleine's destiny? In the following days, other reports began to emerge. Guests said they saw unknown figures lurking around the resort. A man was spotted standing near apartment 5A, staring fixedly at the area. One of these witnesses claimed he seemed nervous but was trying to disguise himself. This information took time to reach the authorities, and when it did, it was treated as noise amidst growing public pressure. Once again, the question persists. What if these reports had been collected and analyzed immediately? Time is a relentless enemy in investigations like this. Every passing minute allows suspects to disappear, clues to dissipate, and doubts to replace certainties. Each contradiction, each ignored or dismissed clue contributed to further delaying the case. The feeling is that with each missed opportunity, the mystery became more intricate, harder to solve. As we delve into the contradictions of this case, it's impossible not to feel a weight. Every mistake, every neglected detail are not just lapses in an investigation. They are gaps that echo through time, leaving a family without answers and the world without understanding what really happened to Madeleine McCann. I can't help but think, what if those moments had been different? What if the right questions had been asked at the right time? What disturbs me the most is the fragility of time. 55 minutes. It was all the kidnapper needed to change the course of so many lives. And the feeling that there was something that could have been avoided, an unlocked door, an open window, a dismissed testimony, makes me wonder how many times in life we also let go of signs that could have saved us from something greater. But there's something in this case that keeps me from giving up. It's not just about what was lost, it's about what can still be found. Now let's face the mistakes that marked the 2007 2007 investigation and see how they lead us to an even more disturbing question. Were these mistakes really accidental? The idea that the mistakes made in 2007 shaped the entire destiny of the Madeleine McCann case is not just a theory, it is a disturbing fact. As we review each decision made at that critical moment, two major questions arise. How did these failures alter the course of the investigation, and if, on some level, they could have been avoided? One of the first theories that gained traction was that of a premeditated kidnapping. The figure seen by Jane Tanner, carrying a child in his arms, seemed to act calmly and confidently, even knowing he was in public. This suggests he knew the area and knew exactly what he was doing. But if that was the case, why did the Portuguese police take days to seriously consider this possibility? The dilemma here is clear. By ignoring or underestimating Jane's testimony in the early moments, the authorities lost a valuable opportunity to track the man. This mistake paved the way for an even darker theory, the idea that Madeleine could have been taken as part of a larger operation, perhaps linked to child trafficking. On the other hand, there are those who believe that Madeleine's disappearance was an impulsive act, something that happened because the circumstances were favorable. An unlocked door, an open window, and an opportunity that someone took advantage of without prior planning. This scenario raises another point of tension. How could someone have entered and exited the apartment unnoticed? The bedroom window was heavy and made noise when opened. The front door, although unlocked, was in a frequently busy corridor. For a crime like this to have occurred by chance would have required an almost unbelievable moment of carelessness. And that only makes the theory even more uncomfortable. As these theories divided opinions, internal tensions between Portuguese and British authorities began to emerge. The Portuguese police, under intense pressure, focused on possibilities that kept the case local, while the British insisted on the idea that Madeleine could have been taken out of the country. This conflict hindered communication and the efficiency of the investigations. A clear example was the delay in issuing an international alert. Interpol was only contacted days after the disappearance, allowing any suspect enough time to cross borders without raising. Was the lack of cooperation between authorities responsible for complicating the search? Or were the initial mistakes, such as the contamination of the crime scene, so detrimental to the case that even with more collaboration, little could have been done? Another layer of conflict was added by the media. From the beginning, the McCanns faced not only the personal tragedy of losing a daughter, but also public scrutiny. Sensationalist headlines, conspiracy theories, and attacks on the family diverted focus from what truly mattered: finding Madeleine. This created a new tension, this time between the parents and the authorities. While the McCanns conducted public campaigns to keep the case alive in the media, the police believed that the excess attention was hampering the investigation. This divergence raised difficult questions: how to balance the need for visibility with the risks of compromising important clues. But perhaps the greatest conflict lies in the very timeline. Between 9:05 p.m., when Jerry checked the children, and 10 p.m., when Kate discovered the disappearance, there is a window of only 55 minutes. It is in this short interval that all theories converge and where inconsistencies become most evident. For example, Jane Tanner's account of the man with a child in his arms coincides with the time a resort resident claimed to have seen someone standing near apartment 5A, staring fixedly at the location. These two accounts together could have formed a solid clue, but were never connected by the authorities at the time. And here is the lingering question: were the man seen by Jane and the man near the apartment the same person? Or was there more than one involved, acting together to ensure the success of the crime? And then we reach the most unsettling point: the moral dilemmas these mistakes bring to light. If the first hours of an investigation are the most important, why were so many basic procedures ignored? The crime scene was not isolated. Crucial testimonies were not immediately prioritized. Border barriers were not erected. These lapses not only delayed the case, they shaped Madeleine's destiny. Every mistake, every lost decision represents not just institutional failures, but an emotional burden that haunts everyone involved to this day. As we try to understand how these mistakes connect to the theories about the disappearance, one thing is certain: the time lost can never be recovered. But what we can do now is look at these conflicts, these difficult choices, and try to find out if there is still something that can be done to correct the course. As the Madeleine McCann case evolved, it seemed that every clue led to a dead end. But years later, amidst reviews of what was neglected, information emerged that could have changed everything if it had been considered in time. time. One such revelation occurred in 2013 when Scotland Yard launched Operation Grange, a parallel investigation conducted to review the events of that night. During this review, one clue in particular stood out: the sighting of a man described as blonde, aged between 30 and 40, seen asking for donations for a non-existent orphanage in the days leading up to the disappearance. What was even more disturbing, he was spotted more than once near apartment 5A. His presence did not seem to have a clear explanation, and his description did not match any guest or resort staff member. But at the time, this information was ignored, considered irrelevant given the magnitude of the case. The witness who saw this man reported that he seemed nervous and anxious, as if trying to avoid prolonged eye contact. He carried a clipboard, quickly noted something, and soon left the area. At the time, no one made the connection, but the detail was revisited during Operation Grange, when it became clear that he was lurking not only around the resort, but specifically in the block where the McCann's apartment was located. And here lies the most unsettling point. If he was asking for donations for a fictitious orphanage, what was his true purpose there? Was he scouting the area, mapping escape routes, or identifying a target? This question becomes even more disturbing when we discover that the same man was described in two other similar situations in villages near Praia da Luz, both before and after the disappearance. Another detail that emerged from the review was a connection between this man and the vehicle spotted by witnesses parked on a side street on the night of May 3rd. A dark car parked at a strategic point, but far enough not to raise immediate suspicions. Witnesses claim to have seen someone entering the vehicle around 10:30 p.m., shortly after Kate McCann reported Madeleine's disappearance. There were no camera records in the area that could confirm the driver's identity or the vehicle's destination, but this connection was not even investigated. What if this car was the key to locating Madeleine before she was taken away? And if the presence of this blonde man was not a coincidence, but part of something larger and meticulously planned? In 2020, another revelation added a new layer to the case. German investigators reviewing old clues identified a phone number linked to a known suspect, Christian Bruckner, that was active in Praia da Luz on the night of the disappearance. This phone was traced to an area very close to the resort within the same time window when Madeleine disappeared. But there is something even more disconcerting. This number was used to make a long-distance call to another unidentified number. The person on the other end was never located, and the purpose of the call remains unknown. Could this call have been related to the disappearance? Was it a request for instructions, a warning, or just a dark coincidence? This is one of the questions that still haunts the investigators. These details further complicate the case narrative because they indicate that more than one person was involved. The blonde man, the mysterious vehicle, and the phone active near the apartment on the same night suggests that this was not an impulsive act, but something planned in advance and executed with precision. What makes everything even more frustrating is that these clues were available, albeit scattered from the beginning. And yet the lack of connection between them allowed the suspects to escape and the case to be marked by failure. For many, this new information seems to come too late, but in reality, it brings a new perspective to the case. By revisiting these clues and reevaluating the mistakes made, there is a chance that previously neglected details might finally connect and offer the answers everyone is still seeking. What intrigues me the most is how these puzzle pieces were there all along, but were never assembled. The blonde man with his clipboard, the car parked on a side street, and the phone linked to a known suspect, all elements that could have transformed the investigation if they had been treated as priorities in 2007. Revisiting the events of 2007 and the failures that shaped the Madeleine McCann case is an exercise in frustration, but also in hope. Every neglected detail, every decision that could have made a difference weighs like a reminder that time waits for no one, but the answers might still be out there. I think a lot about the man with the clipboard, the mysterious car, the phone that rang at the wrong time. All of this makes me wonder, are we one step away from unraveling this mystery? Or will these pieces never fit together completely? Sometimes what torments us the most is not what we know, but what we cannot discover. And you? What do you think of this new information? Did a mistake in 2007 steal our chance to solve the case? Comment below and tell me your opinion. If you watch this far, comment, "I am the one who seeks the truth." So I know you are with me in this relentless search. Tell me, what other mystery or story would you like to see here on the channel? Your request could become the theme of our next video. If you like this dive into unanswered questions, you will love the next video. We will talk about a case as enigmatic as this one, with evidence that challenged even the best investigators. Don't miss it, because the answers might be closer than we think. Subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to never miss a new mystery. And remember, Guardians, not all secrets are ready to be revealed, but that will never stop us from trying. Until the next riddle.